Thor's Journey to the Land of Giants. Part 1. The Journey Begins. Thor, the mighty thunder god, stood upon the rainbow bridge, Bifrost gazing into the distance. His powerful frame was silhouetted against the fiery colors, his hammer Mjolnir held firmly in his grasp. By his side, Loki, the trickster god, grinned slyly, his eyes sparkling with mischief and anticipation. They were bound for Jotunheim, the realm of the giants, where their adventures would test their wits and strength to the fullest. As they crossed Bifrost, the vibrant colors of the bridge gave way to the cold, harsh landscape of Jotunheim. The air grew chill, and the sky above seemed perpetually gray, casting a gloomy pall over the land. Thor's breath misted in the cold air as he scanned the horizon, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Loki, ever the opportunist, seemed unfazed by the change, his mind already plotting their next move. The journey was long and arduous, with rocky terrain and treacherous paths. Yet Thor's determination never wavered. Each step he took echoed his resolve to prove his might against the giants who dared to challenge Asgard's power. Loki, with his usual flair for drama, entertained them with tales of trickery and deception, weaving stories that made even the grim landscape seem alive with possibilities. Eventually they came upon a vast hall, its towering structure looming ominously against the bleak sky. This was the hall of Utgard Loki, the formidable giant king, whose cunning was said to rival even Loki's. As they approached the entrance, Thor tightened his grip on Mjolnir, prepared for whatever trials awaited them inside. Loki, with a flourish, pushed open the heavy doors, and they stepped into the giant's domain. Part 2. The Trials of Utgard Loki. Inside the hall of Utgard Loki, shadows danced on the stone walls, cast by flickering torches that lined the vast space. The giant king himself sat upon a massive throne, his eyes gleaming with a mix of curiosity and amusement. Thor and Loki, though dwarfed by the grandeur of the hall, stood firm, their presence commanding respect even among giants. Utgard Loki's deep voice boomed across the hall, welcoming the gods with a mixture of politeness and hidden derision. "Welcome, Thor and Loki," Utgard Loki intoned, his voice reverberating through the chamber. "I have heard tales of your prowess and cunning, but here in Jotunheim, words are not enough. You must prove your worth through feats and trials." His gaze shifted between the two gods, sizing them up as if they were mere playthings in his grand game. Thor's grip tightened on his hammer, while Loki's smile widened, ready to match wits with the formidable giant. The first trial was presented to Loki, a contest of eating against Logi, a giant whose very name meant fire. Before them was placed a table laden with vast amounts of food. At the signal, they began to devour the feast with astounding speed. Loki's jaws worked tirelessly, but to his surprise, Logi's mouth seemed a black abyss, consuming not only the food but the table and bones as well. In the end, it was clear that Loki, despite his best efforts, could not match the insatiable appetite of the giant. Next came Thor's turn, a challenge of strength and endurance. Utgard Loki brought forth a drinking horn, deceptively simple in appearance, and handed it to Thor. The task was to drain it in one go, a feat the giant king assured was trivial for any of his men. Thor raised the horn to his lips and drank deeply. Yet no matter how much he swallowed, the liquid level barely receded. He drank again and again until he could drink no more. Despite his immense power, Thor could not empty the horn, much to the amusement of the watching giants. As the laughter of the giants echoed through the hall, Thor's frustration grew. Utgard Loki then presented the next trial, to lift a simple-looking gray cat off the ground. Thor, confident in his strength, bent down and grasped the cat. But as he pulled, the cat seemed to stretch and grow, its form resisting his efforts. With all his might, Thor could only lift one paw off the ground, straining against the cat's impossible weight. The giants roared with laughter, but Thor's determination only burned brighter. Part 3. The Revelation of Deception. With each trial, the giants' laughter grew louder, filling the hall with a cacophony of mirth and mockery. Thor and Loki, undeterred by their apparent failures, stood ready for the next challenge. Utgard Loki, still seated on his throne, leaned forward with a gleam in his eyes. "Very well," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "One final trial remains. Thor, you must wrestle with my old nurse Ellie." The giant's words appeared to be yet another cruel jest, as an elderly woman, frail and bent with age, stepped forward. Thor eyed the woman skeptically, but approached nonetheless. How hard could it be to wrestle an old crone? As he engaged with Ellie, however, he found her strength to be anything but ordinary. She resisted his every move with an unyielding force. Thor grappled and strained, but Ellie seemed rooted to the ground, her strength seemingly growing as the struggle continued. Try as he might, Thor could not overcome her, and finally he was forced to concede defeat, much to the roaring approval of the giants. After the trials, Loki invited Thor and Loki to rest and partake in a feast. The food and drink were abundant, yet the gods could not shake off the sense of unease from their defeats. The giant king's hospitality seemed almost mocking, a veneer hiding deeper truths. Loki, always suspicious, cast furtive glances around the hall, his mind racing with thoughts of trickery and illusion. As the feast drew to a close, Loki stood and addressed his guests. "You have shown remarkable fortitude and resilience," he began, his tone shifting from derisive to contemplative. "But now, it is time for the truth to be revealed." He gestured towards the challenges they had faced. None of these trials were what they seemed. Loki, your opponent in the eating contest was not merely a giant, but Logi, the embodiment of wildfire, consuming everything in its path. Turning to Thor, Loki continued, "The horn you could not empty was connected to the sea, and you drank so much that you caused the tides to ebb. The cat you struggled to lift was no ordinary creature, but the great serpent, Jormungandr, who encircles the world. And Ellie, the old woman you could not overcome, was old age itself, a force no one can defeat." The truth behind the trials struck Thor and Loki like a thunderbolt, leaving them in awe of the giant's deceptions. Loki's revelations pierced through the veil of illusion, exposing the true nature of their trials. Thor's frustration turned to grudging admiration for the giant king's cunning. Loki's eyes gleamed with newfound respect for a fellow master of deceit. They had been outwitted, but the knowledge gained was a treasure in itself. With a final, respectful nod from Thor and a knowing smile from Loki, they prepared to depart, their journey to Jotunheim forever etched in their memories. Part 4. The Return to Asgard. As Thor and Loki prepared to leave Loki's hall, the giant king spoke once more. "Know this, Thor and Loki," he said, his voice echoing with a strange mix of pride and melancholy. "Were you to stay and challenge me again, I would have to resort to even greater illusions, for I can see the strength and wit within you both. It is better, perhaps, that we part as equals, having tested each other's mettle." With these words, he raised his hand in a gesture of farewell. Thor and Loki nodded in acknowledgement, and with heavy steps, they made their way out of the hall and back into the cold expanse of Jotunheim. The path that had brought them to Loki seemed longer now, weighed down by the knowledge of their trials and the revelations that followed. As they walked, the harsh winds of Jotunheim whipped around them, a stark reminder of the land's unyielding nature and the cunning inhabitants they had encountered. Crossing the rocky terrain once more, they retraced their steps towards Bifrost, the shimmering bridge that would lead them back to Asgard. Each step seemed to echo with the lessons learned in Loki's hall. Thor, ever the warrior, mulled over the strength and endurance he had displayed, but also the cleverness of his opponent. Loki, the trickster, reveled in the intricate deceptions they had uncovered, already scheming how he might use such knowledge in future endeavors. As they neared Bifrost, the colors of the bridge began to glow faintly against the gray backdrop of Jotunheim. Thor paused, looking back over the land of the giants, a land where even the mightiest of gods could be tested and humbled. "We have learned much today," he said, his voice carrying a rare note of reflection. "The giants are not just brute strength. Their cunning rivals even the gods' own." Loki nodded, a glint of admiration in his eyes. "Indeed, brother, we must never underestimate them, nor forget the power of illusion and wit." Stepping onto Bifrost, they were enveloped in its radiant hues, the cold of Jotunheim giving way to the warmth of Asgard. As they crossed the bridge, their thoughts turned to what awaited them in their home realm. The trials they had faced would become tales told in the halls of Asgard, stories of strength, cunning, and the ever-present struggle between gods and giants. Thor and Loki, once again, had proven their place in these ancient battles, each test forging their resolve and their legend anew. Upon their return, Asgard gleamed in the golden light, a stark contrast to the stark landscape of Jotunheim. The familiar sights and sounds of their home greeted them, a welcome respite after their arduous journey. Thor's heart swelled with pride as he stepped into the grand halls, while Loki's mind buzzed with the endless possibilities their adventure had unlocked. They had faced the giants and returned stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever challenges the future held. I hope you enjoyed this incredible story. We're eager to hear what you thought about the topic of this video, so don't hesitate to share your opinions and ideas in the comments below. We want to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Here, we always dive into epic stories, fascinating curiosities, and much more. And to make sure you don't miss our upcoming videos, hit the notification bell. See you next time, and thanks for watching.